summer, which I just, so Eastern doesn't actually care, and I guess you're welcome here if you're paying the international tuition rates. But beyond that, I do stay up on local politics. I vote in primary elections, which is weird because I am a millennial. I voted for Water Street twice, voted yes. And then I encourage other people to vote for it who were kind of on the fence of voting yes because they're homeowners and they were worried about their taxes going up. And then a week later, I started hearing about this international village, and I am upset. I don't think that you should vote yes on it, and there were a few people that mentioned that they will work to make sure that you lose your seats, and I also will.
Hi, I'm going to be brief about this, but my name is Ethan Lilly. I live at 509 West Forest Ave, and when I was telling my friends about this event, when I was out flyering with Defend Affordable IPSI, like telling people that this event was going to happen, like one thing we noticed was that like the flyers we were handing out were no longer accurate because the time and place of this event had been changed like 3 times. And like I don't know if there were logistical things behind that, but what I was like pretty universally hearing from people I told about that was that sounded pretty freaking sketchy. Like, it sounded like city council didn't want people coming to this. So like, I don't know, there's not a whole lot of trust out there, and you're not doing a whole lot to encourage trust. That's all I got to say.
Hi, my name is Liz, and I'm a gentrifier. Liz Del McGregor, I live at 103 North Lincoln Street, which puts the big giant field that is Water Street pretty much across the street being Michigan Avenue, from my house. So I've lived there for 5 years, and I've had a lot of daydreams about what could be there. There could be a recreation center there. Yes. The county would pay for it. There could be affordable housing there if we could figure out how to clean up the contamination, because that's a pretty hefty bill. And I have to say, the idea that there could be an international village, it doesn't sound like the worst thing ever at first blush. But the idea that we in Ypsilanti would be complicit in selling citizenship to the highest bidders when some of our poorest neighbors are being deported is pretty appalling. And we have a chance to do something different here. We stopped the bleeding, we stopped the hemorrhaging with the Water Street Village that we voted for. We took on more tax debt for that. So maybe we have some breathing room to figure out some creative solutions, some more democratic ownership that will, instead of alienating the people who are here, instead of making it harder for people to afford to live in Ypsilanti, will make it so that more people have more ownership in our community, so that we have more haves, more people getting a share of the pie, because some of us could do with a little less. So I just want to put that out there, that let's think about how we can have some different ownership models before we rush into selling this resource. It's been a burden, but it can become a resource. It can become a potential for a new era for our community. And whatever happens, it's going to change the face of our community. So thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and let's just take it slow and make a wise decision, please.
Thank you for agreeing to have this meeting. My name is Amy Schroed. I live at 713 North River Street. I am a homeowner. Thanks to the help of an investor in Oklahoma City, I was inspired to speak because you spoke. I moved here as someone that received a book deal from Penguin Random House and was a published author, and decided to use those royalties to move to Ypsilanti. My mom had lived here for 10 years before I moved here, and I decided to move here because of the diversity, because of what I felt like neighbors caring for neighbors here, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I'd like to echo what Liz said. Why can we not slow down? I'm involved in international work. I just came back from Turkey. I'm involved in a lot of different parts of the world right now in refugee resettlement work. And we do need to sit down and think about what is happening with China and other countries. So I'd like to just thank you for bringing that topic up because it is very important. We have important resources in Michigan. If we rush into this development, we could be basically getting ourselves into bed with people that we don't know. Do you guys know this? I understand that you've taken the tickets to go to China. That already, to me, seems like a very big problem, that we didn't purchase those tickets ourselves as a city and instead took the money through a student organization. So, I don't know, this is just my opinion. I was not planning to speak tonight. You inspired me to speak because I do think there are people that want to invest in this area specifically, including my investment partner in Oklahoma City, who had a lot of interest here because he saw what was going on in Detroit. And I said, hey, Ypsilanti is an amazing area. He has properties all over the world. He owns more Sonics than anyone else in the country. And he decided to co-sign for me to buy a property as a test in Ypsilanti. Not very many of my friends know this, but I am putting it out there on the table because there are other investors interested in this area. We don't need to rush into this decision. And I would also like to point out that a certain city councilman was laughing at some of the other comments being made on this podium. And that is not okay. So I would like to put that out there. We all have our moments, we're human. However, as a public figure who does a lot of public speaking, it is not appropriate when you are laughing in the background when someone is putting their heart and soul out there. Thank you very much.
Low-income, subsidized housing. I'm not a rich person. I understand the threat of gentrification, but I also have watched for the last 11 years that I live here. And I've been at city council a lot. And I've watched them haggle over $1,000. A city that can't come up with $1,000 is not solvent in a way we need it to be. And I understand that some people may be voting for the village and do not understand that this would not just take care of that. All it did was get the emergency manager from our door. And we need better than that. We need a restoration of city services that we've lost a lot of. And those of you who stayed till the end, thank you. Those of you who left, shame on you. This is your important meeting on both sides. And some of you couldn't stay to hear what other people had to say. I may not have agreed with you, but I listened to every one of you.
Not everybody's free all night.
I understand that, but not this many people had something to do.
You don't know that.
Yeah, well, I do. I watch it in city council. And then people come and yell that they weren't informed. Well, gee, read the minutes, read the agendas, read the packets, come to the meetings. I understand you can't always come, but, you can read the stuff that goes on. I knew about this development a long time ago. And a lot of us did because we went to the meetings and we listened. And we talked to the council people and the mayor. And how many of you have, until recently, have contacted them? I'm just being realistic. I think this could be really good. The amount of jobs that this could create in our town. And yes, maybe we want to put something about affordable, or not affordable, but living wage. Yes, definitely. Because we want to create them to create better jobs. I agree with that, Some of the points are really good, but not taking this development. Whoever said about the albatross, boy, this albatross has been hanging from it for 20 years. And nobody wants it. We've tried to market it all that time. We had 2 developers come in for low-income or moderate affordable housing, and both of them backed out. The rec center backed out because of the construction debris that costs $1 gazillion to clean up. And we need to clean that up. And these are the only people who are going to do that. Otherwise, it's going to sit vacant for another 20 years. The city can't afford that.
The Chinese will be back with the next offer. That's right. The Chinese are dying to get their money over here. They'll offer it. They'll never offer. That's right.
Hello. My name is Zachary Harding. I live at 916 Pearl Street. First thing I want to say is this is not a new issue in Ypsilanti. We've been dealing with this for a long time. We've been having a lot of conversations about trying to acquire development in this town that would address this problem. And the reality is that is not the case. There is not development out there that we are not soliciting. We've had a lot of people up here who've done a lot of hard work. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the decisions that they've made, but they are working hard to try and sell Water Street. And there is no market for contaminated land. We need to sit down and understand that this is what we need to do to get this off our books. If we don't take this opportunity, there is no other opportunity. If we act as though there is, we are pretending. I respect you, you respect me. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to address council at this time? Blue, turquoise.
Hi, am I close enough? Maybe? Yes? Okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Sherburne. I live over on 502 Pearl. Oh, how about that? I'll just lean right in there. Okay. And I was actually born over on 712 Prospect. So I've lived in Ipsy my whole life. Moved away a couple times for short periods and come back. And I just want to say, I came here tonight, and I'm so glad this happened. I agree with what Katie said, that it's amazing that this almost went through with no community discussion. That's horrible. I came here because I wanted to hear more about this issue, because I really hadn't decided which way I felt about it. I wanted to be convinced that International Village was a viable project. I was excited about it, and I understand why so many people are scared to lose what they see as an opportunity. I mean, I remember walking up and down downtown Ipsy when I was like 12 years old with my mom, and pointing out different businesses and being like, that's going to be closed in a couple months, that's going to be gone in a couple months, and they always were. There was always like a couple businesses that stuck around. So it's amazing to see the changes. And yes, it would be wonderful to see that soil get cleaned up. Yes, we need more tax revenue. Yes, there's a lot of things that we feel like we're not going to get if we don't jump on this opportunity. But we don't get to say, as one small part of the community, that everybody else's fears are invalid, and everybody else just needs to sit down while we tell them what the right thing to do is, because they just don't understand the issues. People understand the issues, this is their home too. And clearly, this is not a project that is involving the whole community. And I think we need to listen to that. This is going too fast. I don't think we should act out of fear. And I think we should listen, because Ypsilanti is a community. It's not just a small portion of people telling everybody else what the right thing is to do. So, thank you.
Seeing none, I will close this chance for audience participation and ask if we'll do our best to pass this microphone around. You may stretch. Or comments from council members. Are there no comments from council members? At this time.
What's up with that trip?
So, no comments from council members, as just to clarify again, if anyone joined us late, tomorrow night will be full discussion on the purchase agreement, further discussion of these issues, and others, as well as presence from the developers. We will be back in this room. We moved into this room to accommodate and ran out of chairs even in this room. And so we will be back in this room again tomorrow night. See if we can rent some mics in the meantime to be able to better do that, because it's no fun to not have microphones around, but thank you for Isaac for bringing through mics. The city doesn't have those sort of things. So thank you for providing that. It's not something that we have. See how quickly we can get more of tomorrow, more of a setup. So now is actually our second chance for audience participation. And so if you have spoken once, you are welcome to speak again. So I will take hands from the audience for anyone who would like to address council at this time.
I just started to say, when I was talking before, that it does preserve the border chair. And access to the river. We're not giving that away. That's like in concrete already. So people who said that was going to happen, it's not. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelsey. Would anyone else like to address council at this time?
Just had a question, if you guys are okay with it.
We're not doing Q&A. You can put it out there and it's something that we could potentially address later or tomorrow night. So if you want to
I'd like
stay
to see the
again.
names of the council members who are or were planning on going to China.
Sure. Myself and Mayor Pro Tem are going to China.
Two of you? The two of you? Okay. And she's.
Thank you. Who else wants to address the council, sir?
Hi, my name is Ari Allen-Cuellar. I spoke briefly before, and I'd just like to make a brief comment, not about the substance of this issue, but about the way that we're going to have this conversation as a city. It's not clear how long we're going to keep having this discussion. The thing might get approved soon. It might be a long process. But over the course of that time, I would appreciate it if we could dispense with this business of vilifying people according to where they come from. We've heard a lot of negative opprobrium on the topic of the Chinese. We've heard a lot of negative opprobrium on the topic of the Chinese. I don't think it's a good idea to start characterizing people negatively or vilifying them based on where they come from or what their skin looks like. And in particular, I think it's really negative and unhelpful, inappropriate and wrong to start vilifying members of the council on the basis of where they travel. I don't think that accepting public office in the city should prevent people from traveling where they want to.
It's not a matter of where they're traveling, it's where they took the money for the tickets, and statistically, I'd like for you to research what's going on.
Okay, so if someone else wants to address public comment, Ray and Julie after that.
Hi, I'm Kaiser Sauze. I'm from 423 Emmett. I just want to clarify, tomorrow night's meeting is here, not at City Council? Okay, because all of our flyers and all of the event notices online say City Council meeting is at the City Hall tomorrow night. So can everyone get on Facebook and internet and say, hey, the meeting's been changed. It's here tomorrow night? Because now this is another change. We've had literally like 4 changes. They changed the time tonight. It was originally 6 and it was originally over there. And then they changed it here. So we literally, I've been going and changing flyers and like windows. So we need everyone to just say, hey everyone, the meeting tomorrow night is at the Freight House. Is it at 7? Okay, Freight House at 7 tomorrow night. Can everyone help get the word out? Because they've changed the time so many times. We're losing people, but look how many people showed up. Thank you. I love you.
The meeting has always been published by the city at 7. I think some people mispublished it at one point, so it's always been 7. We changed it to accommodate a bigger crowd. We had to wait to get a legal opinion because tomorrow is an official public hearing of whether we could change it to accommodate that crowd again, and so that's why we announced it at the beginning of the meeting. We'd rather, because there's about 60 seats in City Council, and I know there are 150 chairs here tonight, and they were all full. So that was the reason, and we do need everyone's help getting that word out. We'll be putting out through multiple channels tonight and tomorrow as well. But we're working today to get that answer, whether we can really do that. Thank you.
Am I supposed to still?
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Julia Behe. I live at 401 West Michigan Avenue at Town Center Place, one of the elderly disabled high-rise developments. I'm from Ann Arbor. I've been a lifelong activist for over 40 years. And I am appalled that every single time something comes along that will affect the POC community, the African American community, whatever you want to call it, every single time there's very little outreach done to that community to be at decision-making meetings. I also find it ironic to have so many homeowners that are white have a hard time hearing that this has to include more renters, more people of color, more disabled people, more elderly people, more all of this, the young renters. There are no ways forward for an equitable society if we don't change how even these discussions are had. If we don't slow the roll so that we can include everyone. And historically, we have not. I do believe that the City Council keeps trying, and is trying. I respect that about Ypsilanti. One friend from New Orleans said to me, do you like Ann Arbor better, or do you like Ypsilanti better than Ann Arbor? And I said, I grew up thinking, well, I don't want to live in Ypsi, because we were all knowing that it was the poor people that lived in Ypsi. And this is from the 60s, but at the same time, I'm actually grateful to be here now, because I find more real people here. And the fact is, when I'm in Ypsilanti, it feels a little bit more like Gentilly, New Orleans than Ann Arbor does. Ann Arbor's starting to feel like New York City. And the reality is, we cannot solve the problems that are on the table now with the same old usual methods that haven't worked but to produce inequality. And secondarily, I'm a humanitarian activist who does work in Jamaica, and Jamaica's going through China buying all of Jamaica up to being sold out by even the black Jamaicans in the government. So you can't say that the problem is only whiteness, but there is a problem to do with money making the rest of us all divided against each other. And the fact is, we have to look at it. It is crazy to me, guilty white liberalism, to say we can't say Chinese. This is America, this is our country, we can speak up and finally get everybody who's always been here into the conversation. The fact is, it's a country with lots of human rights abuses, and here's a town that's been working on human rights abuses more actively than any other town I have visited. So let's keep really working at human rights abuses.
Nathaniel Romero, 413 West Cross. I want to thank you, Julia, for your words. I want to break something down to reiterate something that you said. I want to condemn very strongly any sort of xenophobic language coming from this crowd. But I want to say that this is not about xenophobia. I want to say something else. The only people who are saying that this is about xenophobia are white dudes who are ignoring that gentrification is happening. They're not concerned about xenophobia. And I only hear that xenophobia line from white people who are middle class, particularly white dudes, every time I heard it. So that's not what you're concerned about, especially if you are saying that gentrification is not a problem. So let's be real about this. You are only concerned trolling about that shit, and that's not what you're concerned about. Thank you very much.
Of Oak Street. I do want to thank council. I was appointed by council to the Sustainability Commission. I do think our city is doing more than a lot of other places, and I think that might be why we all came here tonight and are getting so heated, because it's not a bad thing, but we hold all of you to a high standard, which is good. I don't think some cities, where I grew up in Plymouth, and also in Northville, I don't think they have representation at their city council meeting. I don't even know if people go to those. So I think it's great that we're doing this, but I think we need to hear the audience's push for going slow as something to do with the millage, as a reaction to people not wanting to feel taken advantage of. And also, I think we're not against Chinese foreigners coming here. We're against capitalists. It might be a communist country by name, but it is a capitalist system. Is that the beeper for that? Oh, okay. So I did not do 3 minutes yet. But it's people who are worth millions of dollars coming into a community where the median household income is $26,000, I think is the issue. They could be coming from anywhere, but it's just the fact that China does have a global imperial. They're literally doing what the US was doing. They're now the imperialists. And then also, one last thing, I think council, I don't think any of you are evil people. I think you all honestly do care. I have talked to many of you, and I think you do care. And so I think if we can just be more transparent, I've heard a lot of people in the audience skeptical about the trip to China, so maybe just publish the itinerary or publish the expenses that the CSSC gave us or something. But just make those things transparent, and then we'll help with the Sustainability Commission. We'll try to help make more meetings for people to talk, because I think we can slow it down and hear more people and be more transparent. Council and the Planning Commission, Sustainability Commission will try to be transparent. So I think this here tonight just showed us that we have a lot to work on, but I don't want us to forget that IPSI is also doing good, but we can do better. So.
Annie Somerville, 40 East Cross Street. I know this isn't a Q&A for council, and I'll be there tomorrow night when that is happening. But I do just want to raise the question, so you'll be aware that it's going to come up again tomorrow night. Many of us in the audience were just a little confused at why the trip was planned for the day after. It's just something that we would like to understand a little bit more. Yeah, that's all.
Julissa Rosario to 11 Fair Street. I wanted to just piggyback off of the last thing that I said, as well as things that are being echoed. Like I mentioned before, I am internationally born. I'm probably the only Black Icelandic person you'll ever meet in your life. But I also, my mother made it a choice to move to the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti area after living abroad my entire life. Because she knew about the diversity here. So when people speak about diversity, I want you to be very clear, like, do you know your neighbors' names? When was the last time you invited someone into your house? Not because you had a fear or something, but like genuinely wanted to get to know them. I also want to talk about the fact that unlike some people in this room, I had the opportunity of I've lived in Japan, I've gone to Hong Kong, I've lived in Korea. I have been a person of color in Asia. So I want to make sure, Nicole, that you understand and take note. You are beautifully melanated, but take note on how people treat you over there. It's going to reflect back here. It is not so much about, there's a lot of ideology that comes with Taoism and other kinds of Buddhists that bleeds into their business practices that allow a lot of, oh, it's okay, we can bargain. There's not a lot of definitive lines that are being set in China, and if anyone would love to argue with me, unless you've been there and have seen it, shut up, plainly. And also, if you've ever been a person of color or a woman or a student in 2017, or, not the descendant of a rich, affluent baby boomer, then please, I would love for you to come up and speak. But if you don't hold any of those identities, we've heard enough from what you have to say. It's really about reflecting the community that's here. I'm very lucky because I was able to get a higher education from Eastern, okay? Went to the Bay Area, watched how I moved into a house where both of my houses were abandoned next to me. Within less than 6 months, rent went up 300%. I was only gone from Ypsilanti for 6 years. I was paying $375 on Pearl for one large bedroom. I'm paying triple that for like a third of that. So I just want you guys to understand, maybe you haven't left the area and maybe you've not traveled in a while. The trip to China might be fun. You have to see the way that world is developing. There's a lot of people here who don't possess the skills that can be in tech, that can be people that are being hired for these jobs, and we do have to recognize them. I look all the time. The same buildings that are abandoned when I left are still abandoned. So we have to address those things. We have to put more money into more emphasis on local businesses and local concerns. Because that is the only way that we can stay of the community where we love. Come on.
Yes.
Would anyone else like to address council? Hearing none. One moment, I'm sorry. Apologies.
Yeah, Veronica.
Hello. Veronica Urban, 1564 Village Lane, MC 4190. I came up because you were the only melanated female that came up. So I decided to come up. I want to show you guys something. You see this? This is a military ID card. It is a retired military ID card. I served my country. I'm having trouble affording rent in the city of Ypsi. That is a problem. I was born and raised here. I'm 58 years old. I only left to go to the military and college. I decided to come back to my community, and I can't afford it. Affordable housing, definitely. If I got this card and I can't afford to live, we need to do something about that. I'm an educated person. I have a VA certificate, I could buy a house, but I can't afford that house. I have the credit score, I could buy that house, but I can't afford that house. Affordable housing is a problem. For you to say that gentrification is not here, absolutely incorrect. And gentrification is not just that those people are coming, it's everything that goes with it. The Eastern culture, I've been to Japan, okay? I've been to Turkey, I've been to Guam, I've been to Germany. Their culture, they stick to themselves. So if you think they're gonna come in and just openly come into the community and open their arms, not unless somebody's programmed them differently.
Wait, Ben.
If that's not gonna happen, it's going to become a closed community. It's not gonna be an open community. It's gonna become closed. We're not gonna be welcome there. They'll tell you we'll be welcome there, but the attitudes and everything are not welcome. And I am not, don't get me wrong, anyone that wants to come to this country that can come and add to it, I'm for that. But when you're talking about bringing 3,000 people into a diverse community that basically, as you can see, we all interact with each other, they're not going to be part of that community. Think about it. If this thing is not, this visa program is not ending on September 30th, we can slow down. I love my community. I work hard for it. I stalk the South Side passing out flyers for this.
Is that a hand in the back? Someone want to address, or that was just a...
Oh, you know what you thought.
I don't need a microphone because this is for...
Can you state your name and address for the record for us again?
I am Jerry Dodge and I have no address. I think I was your first speaker and it looks like I'll be your last, but City Council, you have taken a beating tonight. I am so proud of the way you have graciously handled that. Thank you for your hard work. And from myself, nothing personal.
Thank you. So, as a reminder, tomorrow night, same time, same place. If you haven't had a chance to review the materials on the City Council website in preparation for tomorrow night that were posted last week, or the materials that were posted the previous Tuesday, it was last Tuesday, there's about a 10-page document that has a lot of questions and answers. We'll address some of those in the presentation tomorrow and any questions that have come up this evening and others. I look forward to having you back. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.